one of the YouTubers that speaks about Spanish, he shot a video yesterday, and in his video he mentioned 4 or 5 points, negative points about learning Spanish. But not just this doesn't just apply to Spanish, but any foreign language. And the problem of it is that he did not mention the most important point, and that's this. This is the most important point. Every language that's spoken is connected to any other language that's spoken. So there is a concept that there's something that's said about languages that's just not true. It's a classic misnomer. The word foreign language. Okay, that's impossible. Because we know, genetically speaking, just like the lady says in Mexico, from a Mexican think tank. I don't remember the exact think tank it was, but it's 3 videos down in this feed. She says, look, we're all out of Africa. And so that means that the species which we are has been around basically in isolation for the last 100,000 years, and we can link our genetics all the way back to a singular woman 100,000 years ago. Now, I don't know what the woman looked like. I don't know what her name was. She's just genetically Eve. But that has to tell you that each language is a bifurcation of some language that was spoken by one of the 28 human species at some point in time. Someone said something. Maybe they just, went "oh," and that "oh" bifurcated into millions of words. That "oh," which is natural and normal, because again, there are so many things that have to be named in the universe, and there will continue to be things that have to be named in the universe. And it is not that the things that have to be named are trivial. Okay, here's a trivial thing. Song. Okay, the German word song, and cantare, the Italian Latin word. Cantare, song. I sing, io canto, io canto, io canto, io canto. Okay, io canto. Okay, that's about the same thing. Now, there are some subtle differences that have to be accounted for, because cantare also can mean to poem, to mystify, to encant. For someone falls in love with you, not brujeria, but the positive thing. This lady was captivating, that captivating, encantada. She or he, whichever one. Excuse me. But those 2 words, canto, and sing, I sing, eu canto, those 2 words are interchangeable. They're interchangeable. The word for bird in general, ave, bird, those 2 words are interchangeable. The word for a specific species of bird, that's not interchangeable. That's not interchangeable. That's unique. That's why taxonomy is in Latin. So, in terms of taxonomy, chemistry, metallurgy, aerospace, aerospace engineering, aerospace exploration, the we will have a continual proliferation of words. As long as they're intelligent species, you will have a continual proliferation of words. So and you see it all the time in comment sections. And Luke, the Latinist, he and another Latinist were talking about this, and what they were basically saying is that people out there want to simplify language. They want to cut it back, prune it back. They want to use certain words and they don't want to use other words, and that's just impossible. It's impossible because there are too many things and there are too many phenomenon. It's like if I said, go into the barn, get the buggy whip, and make sure that you attach 4 horses. See, I can't even say it. I can't even imagine it. Attach 4 horses to the buggy and bring the buggy up to the big house. Okay, I can't say it because the only way that I can really visualize it is to see it said in a movie. You know, in the imagery that I'm using, because it's one of my favorite movies, I'm using Giant, James Dean and Giant. I'm imagining him going to get the buggy with the buggy whip and riding up to the big house. You know, in his final scene where he, tells Rock Hudson off and oil gushes all over him. I mean, so, and I haven't even went back far enough to the horse and buggy era. See what I'm saying? But I'm trying to imagine it. Now, one of the things that you learn in Mexico is that there are people, and I learned this in the Philippines, there are people that still live Stone Age lives. There's still people who live like they're in the 1880s. Mexico, once you cross into Mexico, you are living a life as if you were in the 1970s. The cars, the majority of the cars, 1970s vintage. Even if they're brand new cars, they're driven like 1970s cars. You know, the way people drive in Mexico and the way people drive in the United States are entirely different. The United States, extreme traffic congestion. Mexico, it's like driving in the 1970s, 1960s, open highways, but 1-lane highways. Well, 2-lane highways. You remember the old highways where you had to, you shot down the road and you had to hold your breath in case someone swerved into your lane and there was a head-on collision. Yeah. Now you have modern highways where you have a median in the middle and you have 4 lanes over here, or 10 lanes over to the right and 10 lanes over to the left, and head-on collisions are extremely rare. I mean, you couldn't go into an American classroom today and say, you couldn't read a 1960s, 1970s newspaper article where you talked about on road X or road Y or road Z, 2 people were killed by a drunk driver in a head-on collision. It wouldn't have the same meaning, because a head-on, for that to be possible now, the drunk driver literally would have to turn his entire car around and go into incoming traffic, which is the way they express it now. A drunk driver went up the wrong exit, went up the exit ramp, went into oncoming traffic, and there was a head-on collision. That's how they express it now. See? And so language is gained and language is lost based upon technology. So when this guy was making his 5 complaints about Spanish and learning foreign languages, he didn't include that. he didn't include that no matter what language he spoke, whether he was a monolingual, bilingual, polyglot, that the problem was persistent. It was a problem of language, not a problem of this form of speaking versus that form of speaking. You just plain and simply cannot escape it. Okay. I've been listening to this same song over and over again, and maybe I've been listening to this song for 3 years. This song absolutely applies to Spanish. I'll give you an example. Two guys working for the United States government. One guy an English speaker, but English isn't his primary language. One of the African languages is his primary language, or he speaks a Caribbean patois. And so at his post, most people they are bilinguals. Most people are bilinguals. So they love to come up to him and hit him with Spanish. They know that he's defective, so they like to hit him. And when I see him hit him, I like to defend him. So his relief comes, and his relief says, "Que onda?" And the English patois speaker, now he has to respond. Well, he doesn't know what "Que onda" is. So I ask the bilingual, the Spanish English bilingual, "Hey, espera, mi amigo, ¿qué significa que onda?" He said, "Well, what's happening?" I said, "Now hold on. Si que onda significa que pasó. Si que pasó y que onda son la misma cosa. Escribir, di letra que onda." And he says, Q, U, E, O, N. I said, "Oh, okay, espere. O-N, why not A-N? Why can't I say que anda versus que onda?" He says, "Well, huh? What are you talking about?" Okay, que onda y que anda are the exact same thing. They're the exact same thing, but with a little bit of a twist. Okay, here's how it goes. Remember, whenever you're using slang in Spanish, particularly mexicanismos, you will always be speaking in another language. So someone in Mexican Spanish says to you, "Que pasa, burro? Andar, andar." Andar con las propias patas, burro. Okay, now, that is just absolute profane speech. Someone in Mexico yells out, "Animale, andar, andar." Okay, that is not onda, that's andar, and that's with an A. Okay, now, when you say walk in Spanish, when you say walk, you're going to say caminar. But also walk in Spanish is andar. Okay, well, why? Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of English. Jack the pirate was so scandalous that he never walked down the main route. He always walked down alleys. Okay. Now, you translate that into French, and your translator is going to kind of go wild. See, this is why you've got to know the language that you're translating into, and why you essentially are going to use any translator as a text editor. Now, I'm getting to this point here. Now, Jack the pirate walked, you know, he didn't take the main route. He walked down an alley. I guarantee you, if you translate that into French or Portuguese, that your translator is going to have problems. It's going to grind. You can put it in an AI program, and that AI program will grind. You'll see it visibly grind. Okay, for those of you who are worried about AI, you got to remember that there's trucos. See that? That's another little. I think truco. It's tricks, but trucos, I'm pretty sure, is some sort of a Latin word, and I'll find it. But trucos, there are trucos that you can use with anything that translates. Andare is one of the trucos that you can use. Andar, it's a truco. See, and so you can make a whole bunch of videos and with trucos, and people do that. You know, hey, I'm going to take a minimal pair, soup and suit. I got a minimal pair for you. Okay, that's a linguistic truco. It's just a linguistic truco. Okay, so you got to be able to recognize trucos, because if a person is just like one day advanced than you are in anything, mathematics, Spanish, it's like the best way to put it, you're reading a book, right? You're sitting in class and you're reading a book, and one student, and this is a one language class. One student in the class has read the entire book. You know, something like Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. They've read the entire book. And they've read the entire book since maybe, you know, maybe let's say they're college sophomores or something in a literary class. And the focus is Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. The English of that vintage, and this person has read that book, and the professor has read the book, obviously, and these two people are way in advance of the rest of the class. They know what's going to occur. They know the plot line. They know all of the intricacies. So the professor and the student who has read the book, they can play trucos on the rest of the class. They can play trucos, and if they want to make somebody else in the class look foolish, they can make them look foolish. If the guy has a the student has a romantic interest, they can make their romantic interest look like a genius, and make their romantic interest rival look like a fool. Those are trucos. And so the most important thing is that you've got to know where the traps and trucos are. If you don't know where the traps and trucos are, then you're really, really, really going to look silly in your target language. Now, when there are traps and trucos, you can set traps and trucos, but only set traps and trucos that are beneficial. Don't set mean traps. So the guy that was saying "que onda" to the English patois speaker was setting a mean trap for him. Okay, So I go in and I ask him, I said, so why can't I say que anda versus que onda? And then he doesn't know. Neither one of them know. And then I explain, well, you know what? Cristobal Colon, who was an Italian, he was in the middle of the ocean, and the entire crew decided to mutiny. And they said, in the morning, we're going to throw Columbus and the navigators, the people who were on the Nina, the Pina, and the Santa Maria, the people that were in command of the other ships, we're going to throw them also into the sea, and we're going to head back to Spain. So they had it all planned. They're going to throw Columbus and the people that the pilots of the other ship. That, let's call them that. The pilots of the other three ships. And so actually, Columbus has a small fleet, so he's in. We'll use the Arabic word admiral. Columbus is an admiral of a small fleet, and then he has 4 ship captains. That's better. And so they're gonna toss Columbus and his ship captains into the sea. But somehow someone says, wait, we're gonna wait one more morning. Now I'm explaining this to these two guys, the English patois speaker and the bilingual. The bilingual keeps looking at his watch because he wants to get to his post and do his duty. Now, before the explanation, joking around and torturing the patois with a truco was what was important to him. But now he's in the difficult, uncomfortable situation of where he has to realize that there's something in Spanish and in English that he's been saying his whole entire life that he does not completely understand. This Pride and Prejudice in the class. The student who's read the entire book and the professor. They can play tricks on that literature class. Trucos. So now he knows, hey, I'm subject to having a truco played on me. Just as I played a truco on this guy. So now I explain. I say, look, when that morning came, one of the conspirators was on one of the decks of the ship, and they yelled up to the guy up on the top mast, because they had that little basket up there, and there's a guy that stands up in that little basket on his watch, and he looks out over the horizon. And so he yelled up to that guy. He said, "Que onda?" Not que andare, because how can you walk on the sea? You can't. So onda, andare. 2 words that are similar but are not. And to put it in perspective, you have a land mile and you have a nautical mile. The 2 are different. Right? So you put that into Latin, and one is swam, because navigate in Latin means to swim. It doesn't mean to sail, it means to swim. The boat swims. So literally they say the ship swam to Cuba. The man swam to Cuba. The woman swam to Cuba. They use the same verb for swim no matter what is swimming. The whale can swim, the dolphin can swim, Now, an insect that walks on water, it does not swim. It andares or caminares. See? Okay. So, subtle distinction based upon actual anatomy of people, insects, birds. It's actually scientific. It's not just talking. That's the first mistake, is that you think that someone in the past was just talking. No, just as we are, they had the same capacity of thought and they were just as sophisticated. That's one of the things that you have to keep in your mind at all times in the last 100,000 years at least, that the humans 100,000 years ago had the same brain as you and are just as sophisticated as you are. The same as Moses says, humans back then had the same body parts and passions as humans have today. Same thing. So the guy that's up on top of the top mask, he yells down, he says, terra firma, y avis también. So he says, hey, there's land. I see land, I see birds, I see sea creatures that are close to the land. And now the mutineers have a decision. Podemos nadar a que tierra? We can swim the ships to that land? Or nosotros nadamos atrás a España. See? Are we going to swim to that land? Or are we going to swim back all the way back to Spain? Now we're running out of stores. We're running out of fresh water. We only have enough provisions to get to India, which is where they thought they were going. We got to get provisions in India. We don't necessarily have provisions to turn around in mid-sea. So, how does this story go? They see the land. They all agree, drop the mutiny. They let Admiral Columbus resume control, which he never lost control. They make sure that his command is solidified, that his admiralship is solidified. They go, they land, and then Columbus's gifts really saved them. Remember, I've read Columbus in his own hand. He wrote in Latin. And what he says in Latin, what Columbus says and what Amerigo Vespucci says in Latin is entirely different than what the people who are into the Howard Zinn school of history say. You have to read someone in their own hand, in their own speech. You can't let some guy who goes into the stacks, who reads a translation of a translation, and then comes out of the stacks, gives a lecture, and tells you what that person said. They don't tell you what the person said. They tell you their version of what Columbus said. And so I drive down this street called Cologne, and every time I drive down Cologne and I hear that debate in my mind, should this street be named after Cologne, like as if he was Robert E. Lee or something, I just get amazed. There's an extreme difference between Robert E. Lee and Cristobal Colon. An extreme difference. But, these guys get lumped in. Okay, so andare is Italian, Latin. Camminare is what the Spanish use for the same process. So, what this guy who was complaining about how much time language took, and he thought that, hey, because I got to learn Spanish, that I got to go through extra changes, extra efforts, and he didn't realize that even if he remained monolingual in English, he would have the exact same problems. And here's why. And this song is going to tell you. I went to the doctor because the wife and I had problems, and so we sought artificial insemination because of a fertility problem. Okay, that's an Italian word, insieme. Insieme does not have anything to do with particular sexual intimacy. In English, it does. In Italian, it doesn't. So you're listening to an Italian song, particularly by Marco Mengoni, and he's going to use the word insieme muchos, I mean, many times in his songs. It's in Italian literature. It's in Italian songs. Okay. Now, you go on the Spritzel line. There's a line in Europe called the Spritzel line. To the east of that line, the plurals are different. To the west of that line, the plurals are in S. Now, look at the title of this song. Ad o che chi use. See, that I at the end of ocale e chi use, that's the plural. The eyes are closed. Okay, now, I've been listening to this song for 3 or 4 years. Here, look at the words. See, now this is another secret weapon. And this secret weapon, which is really not a secret, is called YouTube Music. YouTube Music is a phenomenal tool that you need to get another, or to analyze languages. Okay, now look. Da quando. See that CE? That's one of the most significant words in Italian. And that same word is used for more things in Italian than in other languages, but that is what is called a particle. And particles are what link you back 100,000 years ago. The chances are, this is a chance, the chances are that the same particles that were used 100,000 years ago are the same particles that are used today. A particle is usually a word that has just 2 letters in it, like that word. Quando, che, se, tu. Now, I'm good at the da, quando, que, se, tu. I'm not good at that se yet. And so now, I don't know exactly what he's saying, but I got a feeling for it. Now look, la luce di mattino ha più colore. The light of the morning has so much color. E non mi sento più. And like, I do not feel something anymore. Un piccolo cinzino fra rumore. See, now he said silenzio. Un piccolo silenzio fra rumore. Something like there was a little itty bitty silence, and then it made noise. See? Something like that he's saying. Now I don't have it perfectly. And your first thing that you're gonna do is run to a translator. That's the first thing you're gonna do. And that's the last thing that you should do. There's only 2 options. You can ask someone in Italian what this song means, and they're not going to be able to tell you because the song is a poem, and it's by one of the greatest songwriters in Italian history. So he's intricate, layered, and deep. So you'd have to talk to Marco himself to get the entire meaning. And what any great songwriter, or poem, or writer, or poet wants you to do is he wants you to take his song that's based upon his experience and connect it with your own experience when such a similar thing occurred in your life. So you just can't grind this through a translator. It'll get you close, but you'll still be far away. So what you got to do is you got to listen to this song for years. And every time you listen, you're going to see something different. Now, I'm very close to imprinting this song in my personal experience. Because when something occurs to me that is similar to this song fires off in my mind. And I'll take this song, particularly in a romantic situation, and I'll play this song for a person. And it doesn't matter what language they speak. I want the person to feel this song. And women always will be able to feel a song. The language to women does not matter. They can feel the emotion of the song in the music, the melody, and the words. Men are entirely different. Men want more precision. Men are going to say, what does that song mean? A woman won't say that. She will wait, and if she likes the song, she'll listen to the song over and over and over again as a process of discovery to find out why you have connected that song with yourself, her, and an event. She'll wait, even if it takes her whole life, she will wait. Okay. Del amore non so niente. Okay, this amore, it wasn't like it was nothing. Conosco solo te. I only know you. Now, that's why K-N-O-W is spelled with the K, and why N-O is spelled with N-O. See, conosco. Because that K-N-O-W is Latin, not German, it's Latin. Okay. So there is an intimate knowledge of something, there's a scientific knowledge of something, there's a casual knowledge of something, there's a romantic knowledge of something. There are a whole bunch of ways of knowing things. So there are many words that can be used in conosco. So, conosco solo te. Solo is connected with the Latin verb soleare. And there's another song by an Italian that I've listened to thousands of times. And she is going to, in this song, she is going to sing in verse, sola, 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 constantly. Very important word. And it's probably a very primitive word that has been used for 100,000 years. Okay. Si il confine della mia pelle e al di là. Okay. Something like something is confined in my pelle. See, it's an e da la. Something that is down into my skin, that is subdermal, to use the Latin, that is subdermal, la. You see, pele. So you're gonna say to yourself, okay, wow, okay, let me give you a little bit of Spanish. Yo puse que en la mesa. Okay, now see that word piel? Okay, now that word in French, Spanish, English is used in a lot of different ways. This word, pele, he had an orange peel. See? He had an orange peel. Yo puse la piel, and you say in Spanish, yo puse la casca de la, I'll say it in Portuguese, naranja en la mesa. Okay, see? So you can say, I put the peel on the table. Okay. Eu penso que de più non sei. See that C with the apostrophe, that is C-I, and then it goes on with the be verb, E. See, that's why that C-I in the first stanza, let me go back up to it. See this, see that C-I, that C apostrophe, they're leading the I, and then the E is the V verb, is one of the be verbs. Now remember, there are always multiple be verbs in any language. And so it's something like, I thought of that it could not be no more. Maybe. In anche, si non più tu sordormi. I have no idea what he said. That's one thing I see, you grow with this. You watch these videos, and what you want all the time is a perfect video. You want to discover the person who can tell you exactly what's being said at all times. That isn't how the world works. Unless the person is showing you their vulnerabilities, it's worthless. It's worthless. Because anyone can read a set stanza perfectly. Anyone. I've seen it happen, you know. They don't even know what they're reading, but they're reading it perfectly, and they're not going to admit to you, hey, I don't know what that says. You know, the talk, papagayo. Okay, sono. See? Now, that sono, which is the be verb, io sono, that's very complicated. See, now in Spanish, you would think that is, I am making a sound, I am hearing, something like that, but that's not it. That's the be verb, and that's I am. See, sono, porque, for why, in exactly like in Spanish. Sale y miracole. Now see how the person changes here? Sale, what salir? What is saliendo? What is going out? Un miracole. See, so he's saying, see, and he has the I there. So, salir, miracles. See, now, in that, and I'm not sure if he's got a plural miracle or he has a singular miracle, because salir is going out, but it appears to me from this vantage point right now to be singular, but it might not be singular. So that's one of the reasons I got to keep listening to the song. Now, could I just translate this? Yes, but why? That's going to wreck the song, and it's going to wreck my ability to gain understanding. You know, life is not a stage where you've got to memorize your lines and jump on stage and present something to someone. There's a lot of things that have got to be done backstage that are important. So in learning a language, concentrate on what's going on backstage. Okay, reconoce tu mani en tu instante. See that tu mani? See that tu mani? And see that le tu mani? Now, that tells you why it's hermano in Spanish. See? En instante. Time is very, very critical and important. Here he uses old-fashioned time. When you say an instant, that's old-fashioned time. So you got to say, why didn't he say a second? Why does he use old-fashioned time? Can't he measure it? It's not just a question of physics. It's a linguistic question about the measurement of time. And the measurement of time and the weather are always going to be treated really uniquely in language, in all languages, not just like in Spanish. You say "hay calor." No. People think that English treats it better and Spanish treats it differently. No, it's treated the same. Because remember, when was the thermometer invented? So you could not measure how hot it was for the vast majority of the last 100,000 years, if not the last billion years. You couldn't measure it. You could not measure heat. So you had to have I calor. We have heat versus no, no, no I calor. We either have heat or we don't have heat because we couldn't measure it. The invention of the thermometer. See, now that just occurred to me. And there's a very famous Latin book that defines people, and it's called The Nature of Things. The people who read the nature of things and believe in the nature of things are scientific. The people who don't believe in the nature of things and think that it does, and don't think that it explains all phenomenology, they are Aristotelians who believed in a soul and all of that sort of thing, and invisible actors. See, so that's the Greeks versus the Romans. So it's not just like what people think, oh, it's the Catholics versus the Protestants, it's the scientists versus the religious people. No, same thing has been going on for at least 100,000 years. Same exact argument, and the argument will continue for as long as there are intelligent creatures in the universe. Ok, fra miliardi di persone, oculi clusili kai schietto me. And I'm going to read this because we're running out of storage space, we're running out of time. Da quando si che tu. He sings this beautifully. Da quando si che tu non sente ni piccole dolore, e oggi non penso più. Da quando has camminato por trovare. Trovare is to find, and you're always going to have that in Portuguese. Resta solo adesso. Adesso is Latin for now. So when you look at French and they say maintenir, it's because the problem is the measurement of time. Now, right now, ya, order, all of these are the problems of the measurement of time. We could not really measure time well until 1968, right about then, with a cesium clock. And still, someone won the Nobel Prize in science and physics this year because he refined time. I forgot what, I think it's a nanosecond or something like that, and he refines time further. And so we're right up to the point that we are at the smallest interval of time. When we get to the point that we're at the smallest interval of time and we can measure it, that is when the measurement of time starts. Anything that was done before that was the approximation of time. So adesso, now, ya, agorita, mantener, those are estimates of time. And it requires that you are in the situation to know what adesso means. Resto solo adesso, mentre sole ti ne vai, quando forse che mi hai, dato non lo sei, spirito, non è facile, anche se non più di poco di me, sono poche sale e miracoli. And I'm killing the song, but this is what you gotta do. You can't let him do all of the singing. You gotta try and sing with him. If this was an English song, you'd sing with it. You'd sing with it. But you hear me singing with it and butchering it, and you say, oh no, I couldn't butcher this. If your little baby doesn't start out by babbling, the baby will never speak. So if you don't start babbling Italian, babbling Spanish, babbling English, babbling Japanese, babbling whatever it is, and you want to be like your famous YouTube star, and you want to just say everything perfectly on the first take, which you don't know how many takes it took, you don't know if they're reading the pre-prepared script, you don't know if they got a teleprompter there, you don't know anything. You just hear that they sound good. Todo Papa Gallo. Don't be fooled. Get in here, babble, make mistakes. Riconoscerele tu, mani un instante, ti vio ad ocole close, e sale perché, frate milionari di persone ad ocole cosole. I selecto me, I'm killing it. Anche se non più tu solo me, sono poche sai, la miracole, risanare tu mani un istante, ti vedo ad ocole close, e sale e poche, frata, miliardi di persone, e visto sole te. Fra miliardi di persone, ho visto solo te. See, now, let's say that I sing this song to someone. I decide, hey, I fall in love with someone, and I sing this song every year to her on our anniversary, because I think what he's saying is even if I have my eyes closed. See, and I just heard this. I just heard this in my mind this week. He's saying even if I had my eyes closed and you lined up all 8 billion people on earth, I could still find you, identify you. You would still be you, and you would still be the most important person for me. See? Now, you have many English songs that say something like that. I would rather be blind. I'm blindly in love with you. See, that's kind of what he's saying. See? Yo soy ciego y yo no puedo ver nada. Yo soy ciego y yo no puedo ver nada. Pero, mujer, yo siento de ti. Yo siento de ti. Tu aroma, tus labios, tu perfuma. Quando eu tocarte con mis manos, yo puedo sentar toda su hermosa forma, pero yo soy ciego. See, that's what he's saying. Now, you think, oh, I can just say what he just said in Spanish. I can make that up and I can say that. No, you can't. No, you can't. You have got to have the experience. And his song is about the experience. And so you can say it better by looking at how he says it in Italian. Now, so you know you got these passport bros, and they're always after women, and they're always saying this guy gets the best woman, this guy doesn't get the best woman, blah 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 blah. I guarantee you, you go in Brazil, you play this song for a woman, and you say what I just said in Spanish, in Portuguese, I don't give a damn if the guy next to you is white as snow, is clear as rain, is dark as night, is blue as the sky. I don't care what he looks like. The fact that he cannot say what you can say while playing this Italian song, it will make you unforgettable in that woman's mind. She may choose to walk with that other guy that's blue, pink, purple, green, star bright. She might choose to walk with him for the rest of her life. Andare por toda la vida con él. But she will never ever forget you. And that's what you're trying to do in anything in life, is you're trying to make memories in the people that are most intimate to you. So that in the last, when I die, I still have 10 minutes of brain activity when all other things cease. And my goal is for that 10 minutes of brain activity to be filled with images of love, not images of trauma. I will still, in that last 10 minutes, be able to hear, because my auditory nerves will still be working, I'll be able to hear the people around me. And I want to hear comfort in their voices, knowing that I have passed peacefully. And it's the same concept if you fall asleep at night and you fall asleep in the arms of a loved one. You don't want to fall asleep in the arms of an enemy. You want to fall asleep in the arms of a loved one. Okay, that requires poetry. That requires thought. That requires the subjunctive. That's why when someone writes one of the greatest songs that has ever been written, it doesn't matter what language it is. You listen to the song over and over and over again. Doesn't matter how you butcher the song when you're attempting to sing it on YouTube. You look at that song over and over and over. So for me, this is one of the songs that I will listen to until the day I die. Go to YouTube Music. Find songs in other languages. Doesn't matter what language it is. Find those songs, listen to those songs for the rest of your life. Try and figure out what the person is saying. Move you to another level. Foreign language study isn't just about work. It's also about reward. And it's not about the reward of going out and talking to someone. Oh, I went to Mexico and I talked to those people. That's not the singular reward. That talking. That papagayo. It's that listening that is far more sweeter. Because when you get into that target language country, 99.9% of the time you will be listening rather than talking.